Assalamu alaikum
Assalamu
wa
alaikum.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. And welcome to TechByte here on Salam Media. My name is Faizel Patel. I'm so happy to be in studio this evening. It is just gone 4 minutes past 7 o'clock on this Sunday evening. And I take this opportunity to welcome all those listening to us on the various platforms of Salam Media, including YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter Live, and many other platforms. I really appreciate the company this evening as we talk technology. There's a lot of excitement and exciting topics coming up in this evening's program. At about 10 past 7, around 10 past, quarter past 7, we're going to be speaking to somebody, an expert on cybersecurity and South Africans getting hacked. And what does that mean for you? So that's very, very important considering that we are living in an age of vulnerability. So that's coming up just around 10 past 7. Also, this week, there's a very, very big launch that's coming up. That's on Wednesday. Samsung is going to be launching their new phone. So we're going to be speaking about that as well. And then there was a notice issued by the South African Police Services with regards to WhatsApp. So before we go for our first interview, let's talk a little bit about Samsung's launch that's coming up this coming Wednesday. So that is just after Women's Day on Tuesday, obviously, and the Samsung event is happening on Wednesday. So we know that Samsung is a technology giant. They've come up with wonderful, wonderful devices, and they shared the official trailer for its upcoming Unpacked event. The Samsung company, the tech giant, is known for their Unpacked events. The event is called Unpacked because they unpack a whole lot of devices, they unpack the future. That's what they normally call it. The launch, which is expected to take place on the 10th of August, will see the debut of the next generation foldable smartphone, including the Galaxy Z Fold 4 and the Galaxy Z Flip 4. Now, remember, I do have the Galaxy Z Fold 3. Absolutely wonderful device. And when I went for Hajj this year, a number of people were actually using those devices, and I regret not taking it with me. Makes my work as a journalist very, very much easier, inshallah. And we want to see what the Z Fold will hold and what it has in store. The Z Flip 3, that or the Z Flip rather, that one, my nephew actually has got one. His name is Faizel Patel. The Z Flip is a wonderful device, really, really small, compact. We spoke about the Huawei flip phone last week. That is the Pocket Premium, and I really enjoyed it during Hajj. It was easy to put into the pocket. But the Samsung event happening this coming Wednesday. So stay tuned to my Twitter handle. We will obviously cover it on Salam Media as well. So let's speak about the rumors quickly about what these phones might hold. Rumors suggest the Galaxy Z Fold 4 will have an updated design with a single hinge design instead of the double hinge of the previous Samsung foldable phones. Now they are becoming better and better all the time, and hopefully, inshallah, they will become cheaper all the time. Remember, the Galaxy Z Fold 3 at the moment sells for around 28,000 Rand, give or take here and there, and they're very, very expensive at the moment and subsidized on a cell phone contract that can be really more expensive. Now, it is also rumored the Galaxy Z Fold 4 will be powered by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, fresher and faster chipset than currently used for the Samsung Galaxy S22 series. Now, if you do have the S22, you know it's a wonderful device. I have done a YouTube video on it. You can check it out on YouTube at Faizel Patel. Wonderful, wonderful device. I reviewed that particular one. And they talk about the SoC. For those that don't know, the system on chip, or that's what they call it, should also benefit battery life, which is encouraging since the Z Fold 4 isn't otherwise tipped for a battery upgrade. So the battery that one I have is not bad. It lasts you for a day or two. It depends on the usage as well. So other stuff that they will be focusing on also, the device will feature upgraded cameras, including a 10 megapixel telephoto sensor, 3 times optical zoom, and a whole lot of other features. The Galaxy Fold 3 was priced at 30,000. My mistake, actually. It's gone down a little bit now, I think around 28, 29,000, but it was priced at about 30,300, excluding duties and other charges. And display analyst Ross Young says the 4 could get a small price cut, so hopefully a little bit cheaper. Now, Samsung is also touted to introduce the Galaxy Buds Pro 2, Galaxy Book laptops, and also for slated upcoming Galaxy Unpacked. So we might see some devices, maybe a new watch as well. I know some of you are using the Galaxy watches. And then the EVP of Head Marketing, and that's the Executive Vice President of Marketing and Mobile Experience at Samsung, Stephanie Choi. She basically says that the company is reimagining Unpacked through the lens of the Galaxy openness philosophy to match creativity of the company's unparalleled foldable devices. Now, let's come on to the foldable devices quickly. For me personally, it worked wonderful. I love the devices. And my mistake, I should have taken it with me on Hajj. It would have been easier to then, use an iPad or use my small little phone with a small screen. This would have been very, very much better. So that's basically the launch. It's coming up this Wednesday rather. Please stick to my YouTube channels and also onto my Twitter handle, my Facebook, Instagram. I will have all the pictures and photos of the event there, and inshallah, we will also discuss that on Salam Media. Right, the time now is just gone 10 minutes past 7 o'clock on this Sunday evening. We're going to be going for a break. After the break, we're going to be speaking to a person by the name of Jan Vermulen. Now, I know Jan quite well. He's a journalist, a tech journalist at My BroadBand. And we're going to be speaking about big companies getting hacked. Now, this is a serious problem and the implications that it has for you as an individual. This is serious, serious problems because I've spoken about this before. Why I'm saying big companies and you implicated is because that you may be a customer of these companies or maybe a client of these companies, and if these companies get hacked, they normally steal customers' details, and your details might be one of them, and a lot of your details will be compromised, like your ID number, your personal details, a whole lot of other stuff. And hopefully, Jan will give us more clarity on what you can do to stay safe and how rife is the situation in South Africa. So let's go for that break. After the break, inshallah, we will be speaking to Jan Vermulen. Stay tuned to Salam Media.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like tib black seed. You can find tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Whoever fasts Ashura, it is as if he has fasted the entire year. And whoever gives charity this day, it is like the charity of an entire year. Donate from only 500 Rand this month of Muharram to any of our campaigns and reap the rewards. Visit our website at www.pennyappeal.org.za to do a quick and easy donation, or visit the site for more information on our Thirst Relief, Orphan Kind, Hifts Orphan, Feed Our World, and the Mosque Project. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back to Salam Media. My name is Faizel Patel. For those that don't know, this is a technology show called TechByte here on Salam Media. We're speaking about a very, very serious issue that has become very rife in the country. Now, recent cyber attacks on South Africa have shown how vulnerable the country is to cyber criminals and ransomware assaults, which pose a threat to people, the economy, and infrastructure. Online crooks are increasingly targeting South Africa, which now has a third or the third highest number of cybercrime victims in the world. This costs about 2.2 billion rand annually. In the first quarter of last year, South Africa was also the worst affected on the continent in terms of targeted ransomware attacks, which can affect critical infrastructure. Now, if you stay tuned to my stories on the Citizen, you will also know that I wrote a story earlier this year about even the president's account or his bank account that was actually hacked. And remember, his security is like top notch, but even he was vulnerable. Now, to tell us more on the line, we do have My BroadBand's Jan Vermulen. Jan, good evening to you. Thank you for your time on Salam Media.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here.
So nice talking to you. I know I always meet you at events, so hopefully you can give us some perspective on this scourge that's actually affecting South Africans and the country.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fire away. I'll try to answer as many questions as we can fit in our time.
All right. Look, we've seen a number of cyber attacks in the country at the moment. It started off with TransUnion. We've seen Discam. We've seen some other companies as well. Now, when these cyber criminals are attacking these companies, they getting a whole lot of information or data on people that are customers. I mean, Discam is an online store. TransUnion does a lot of credit checks, people's ID numbers, business details, a whole lot of other stuff is on there. I think there is a website. I think My Broadband actually shared it where you can check whether you're vulnerable to these kind of attacks. The introduction that I put through was last year. We already on the second quarter, coming towards the second quarter of this year, towards the end of the second quarter. How has this been exacerbated over the last 6 months?
Yeah, it's really not stopped. So we've seen, for example, ShopRite being attacked in recent weeks. Also, a type of data theft attack where the criminals break in and they leave with data, and then they try to get the company to pay. So it's cyber extortion. So they try to get the company to pay to avoid having customer data leaked.
Mm.
And so it's definitely not stopped, and in fact might be getting worse as the more of these attacks are happening, not just in South Africa but around the world. We're just seeing as more South Africans move online, more people are impacted by these attacks, and as more South African businesses move online, they get impacted more by these attacks. The ShopRite attack, for example, was linked to a financial service that they provide across the continent. So it actually affected South Africans less than it did people in other countries. But it was what they call KYC information, know your customer information.
Yes, yes.
It's ID documents and so on. And it wasn't just names and ID numbers that were compromised in that attack. It was photographs of people's ID books that were leaked as part of this breach. It's actually quite bad. And then here in South Africa, as you've rightly pointed out, besides the smaller attacks, we've had our credit bureaus being compromised, and that's huge. Before this, we've also had the master deeds leak, which is years ago. But essentially, what that's done is it's put every single South African's ID number in the public domain. So you basically have to go around assuming that your ID number is public knowledge. You can't just assume that it's a private piece of information anymore. And we'll see when banks take action on that, because financial institutions in South Africa, for example, still, when they send you your monthly bank statements, you have to type in a password, and that password is your ID number. But that's
Yes.
such an easy piece of information to get your hands on. It's a matter of time before the banks have to change that just because it doesn't provide sufficient security.
Coming on to the personal aspect of it, I know me personally, I use a VPN. How important is it for people, especially individual users, consumers, who have been compromised in these data breaches and data hacks, to have adequate firewalls, or perhaps, I always recommend VPNs, especially, to my friends and customers and listeners and viewers. How important is it to ensure that you do not use, first of all, the same password, like password 123 on all your accounts, because there's so many online logins these days. Probably use a password generator to give you something unique, and then also using a VPN, which is a virtual private network.
Yeah, so if you end up using a lot of public Wi-Fi networks, and I know, as you say, our line of work, you're sometimes connecting to other people's hotspots.
Mm,
And, if you're at an event, for example, you're usually using a venue's provided Wi-Fi, and you don't know how secure that network is. And so in that situation, a VPN could be useful. But I would say far more important for the average person out there, don't worry about the VPN to start with. If you
mm,
can't afford it, then don't worry about that. First things first, make sure you are using strong passwords everywhere. Do not reuse passwords ever. Even for the most garbage website that you're signing up to, a throwaway site, don't reuse a password there, because if that garbage site gets compromised, then the attacker will have an email address and a password, but potentially linked together. And so a very typical way for attackers to try and hack people is to find a different data breach and go, okay, but in this data breach, there were passwords available in plain text. And then they just retry those passwords with the associated email addresses everywhere they can. So whether, they might try it on your Gmail or your LinkedIn or your Facebook or your Twitter and break in there. And from there, they might, move what they call move laterally and try to break into different services or exploit even your network, your social network, by
mm,
sending messages that look like they come from you to your friends and family to say, something like, hey, I've just been robbed, please transfer money quickly, because all my cards are gone, I just need a quick 1,000 rand just to catch a taxi home, or whatever the case might be, and in so doing scamming people. So some very basic advice right off the bat: don't reuse passwords. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. So the first one is you can think up a system to come up with unique passwords, right? So
mhm,
for example, if you're creating a password for Facebook, you can come up with a fairly strong 8 or 10 character base password, and then modify that base password using the service that you're logging into, right? So if you're logging into Facebook, which is owned by Meta Platforms, for
yes.
example, then
Mm,
you might modify that password slightly so that it says Meta Platforms in there somewhere, or
mm,
Facebook
mm,
in there somewhere, but you still have that same base password. So you effectively combine two passwords, or you take your basic password and then you attach Facebook in there somewhere, either in the middle or the front or the back, to so that it's easy for you to remember, but it's hard to guess. Now,
mm,
a step above that is to use a password manager. So
yes.
like
Mm,
Bitwarden is one that
mm,
I recommend, but LastPass is another good option. 1Password, even the password manager built into your operating system on Mac OS or
mm,
Windows. Those are good too. And Chrome, Google is actually rolling out a password manager type system with its Chrome web browser, which will work well. But in the meantime, you can try these. Let me just say them again: Bitwarden and 1Password. Those let you, and LastPass.
mm,
Those let you generate random passwords, but you don't have to remember them, because this is a plugin that you install in your browser. And then when you want to log into a service, and it works on your mobile phone as well. And
Mhm.
then when you need to log into a service, you open up your password manager, and you can just get your password out of there to log into the service. And then you have to remember just the one password. That's why the one of these is just
Mhm.
called password, right? Because
Of course.
you remember your
Yes.
master password, and that unlocks your password manager vault.
All right.
And that is already far more secure than reusing your password even on 3 websites.
Mm.
So those are some like the first best piece of advice that I can give to people. Do not reuse passwords. That is a great way to get hacked, unfortunately, in this day and age.
Right. And finally, I mean, obviously, there will be some concerns among South Africans, obviously, given the severity of the hacking that's taking place. If you want to check how vulnerable or you are, or if you have been compromised, is there a website or a link that viewers and listeners can check whether their ID numbers or their personal details have been compromised? I know now and then I do get an email from Google to say this password has been compromised, change it immediately, whatever the case may be. Is there like a secure site where the viewers can check whether they have been compromised in these data breaches across the country?
So there is a service, but unfortunately, it doesn't have every single South African data breach in there. So there's a
Hmm.
site called Have I Been Pwned?
Hmm.
That's just normal. Have I been and then owned, but you
Hmm.
replace the O with a P. Dot
Okay.
com. And so you go or HIBP. If you
Hmm.
search for that in Google, you should come up. You should get to Have I Been Pwned? And then you type in your email address, and I think they let you search by mobile number now as well.
Hmm.
And that will tell you if your details have been part of a compromise, where your email address and or phone number have been part of the breach. So unfortunately, we've had a few breaches in South Africa where your email address and phone number might not appear, but all
Hmm.
kinds of other private data might appear. Your ID number, your home address, your employer's details, your salary, all kinds of private financial information might actually appear right next to your ID number, but there's no phone number or email address to connect it to. And then Have I Been Pwned doesn't pick it up,
Hmm.
unfortunately. So, as I said right in the beginning, assume your ID number is no longer a private piece of information, that if an
Hmm.
attacker can get or wants to get their hands on it, they can. But if you want to have a sense of whether your email address or phone number have been part of a compromise, go check out Have I Been Pwned. I think it's also an eye opener to see just how many of these breaches there have been. And it's, I think, a good lesson to not reuse passwords, because all it takes is for one of those breaches
Hmm.
to have included your password without the password being properly what we call hashed or
Yes,
or or encoded, I guess,
of
is a
course.
way to think about it. Um, and then the attackers have them, and then they can hack into your accounts. Yeah, just one last time, haveibeenpwned.com.
Okay. Unfortunately, Jan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for the information. I'm sure that it will come very, very useful to those that have tuned in this evening, including myself. And I know I'm going to probably see you at the Samsung event on Wednesday. So until then, please do take care of yourself, and we'll chat again soon.
You too.
Cheers.
See you
Bye
later.
bye.
Bye bye.
All right, that was Jan Vermulen. He's going to be at the Samsung event with myself that's happening on Wednesday. Before we conclude, Jan obviously giving some very valuable tips there, very valuable tips there. Remember that have I been pwned? So please check that out to see if any of your details have been compromised. And then the three websites that he was talking about, this is one of them I use, is LastPass, and it's called the other one, even NordVPN has got their own NordPass, and you can see others as well. If you've got a MacBook or you've got a Google account, you can even use their password managers or password generators as well. And then before we conclude, there's one important story I want to share with you, and that is this week. The South African police services have now issued South Africans of a scam that involves people to steal people's WhatsApp accounts. So if you got a WhatsApp account, please be careful, because the police have warned that there are people wanting to steal your social media accounts. particularly WhatsApp. So how do they do it? Social media users have been urged not to share personal information about themselves with anyone following the new modus operandi by criminals to impersonate users on Facebook, right? So, according to the police, users will receive a text message from a scam artist to lure them into the trap. They say you will receive a SMS from a person claiming that they sent you a 6-digit code by mistake. They will ask you to share that code as a matter of urgency. Hello, this is the message. Hello, I'm sorry, I sent you a 6-digit code by SMS by mistake. You transfer it to me urgently, right? Do not do that. You know, and if you had multiple phones or different phones, whenever you register WhatsApp on a different phone, it asks you to enter a code. This is the code that the thieves and the criminals want. If you do that, your WhatsApp number will be stolen. So do not share the code with anybody. Now, if you want to read that story, you can go to the citizen.co.za, search for WhatsApp, and under the technology tab, and you'll find the details there. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this week's edition of TechByte. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will be having a lot more interviews like the one we had with Jan Vermulen to make it more interactive and more vibey. And if you got any questions at home, anything that you want to share with us, please do tweet me on at Faizel Patel 143. You can go to facebook.com/Faizel Patel. I'm also on Instagram at Faizel Patel 143. And most of my YouTube videos, my unboxings, and many other reviews are down in YouTube. I got massive hits on the load shedding one, a lot of questions on my solution to load shedding. Check it out on YouTube at Faizel Patel. Also hit the subscribe button and the like button as well. For myself, Faizel Patel, and my engineer for this evening, Brother Sadiq, from all of us here at the Salam Media Studios here in Omondi. Fi amanillah.